Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to our regularly scheduled meeting of December 16th. Scarlett, please note the council's in full attendance. We'll go by our agenda, and first we have, of course, our items from council. We have an A, B, and C on there. I would like to add one at the end of that, I guess a D. Obviously, council can bring up other things as well, but in light of recent events, I've asked Charmel if we could have Chief Craig come up after we complete A, B, and C and give us a brief overview of recent incidents which we're all aware of. So we'll go ahead and move into, is anyone want to bring up anything else before we get into A? I see.
Yeah, if we could pull D2.
D2?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And we still have time if y'all think of anything else. We'll go ahead and go into the automated solid waste comparison Mr. Hagan had asked about.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In front of you, I placed before the meeting a comparison that Councilman Hagan asked about for the automated system. It's a comparison between 2007 budget, or actual, and 2010 actual. And the reason we picked those 2 years, 2007 is the last year that we were completely working with rear load trucks, 3-man crews. That was the last full year. The reason we picked 2010, it's the first full year of having the 5 automated trucks and the semi-automated route running. So that we would be comparing only to actual to actual. You can see under the savings on the side that we had substantial savings, more than what we thought as we went into that. And that we're actually putting in about $150,000 back into the closure fund that we had been robbing from for years. The $13.75 rate is the same rate that we were charging for garbage back in 2000, so when we adopted that $13.75 rate. It's important to note that we're still charging that $13.75 rate to pick up just garbage. That's not including everything else, the other services that we provide. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Dale, I'm sorry. I didn't see you, I'm sorry. How many trucks were we running in 2007?
In 2007, we had, I believe it was 14 rear loaders running around town when it was all said and done.
Okay.
And then we had some spares that were on the yard for breakdowns, and it was an older fleet at that time as well.
So we were working the same routes with the 5 autos, we were taking 14 then?
Yes, ma'am, because we're picking up about 1,000 homes per driver per day with the 5 automated trucks. With the residential truck, you'd be lucky to hit 500 or 600.
Okay.
We were also picking up twice a week versus once a week.
We were also picking up twice a week.
Big difference.
I just wanted to thank you for the comparison, because I still do get asked about this, and this gives me something concrete to hold on to be able to give a very intelligent answer. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We still get those questions as well.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
2,000, the rate of $13.75 a month, that is all inclusive before everything was broken out?
That was all inclusive before everything was broken out. We were picking up unlimited brush, unlimited times, unlimited everything. We were picking up yard waste. Everything was part of trash. So we could pull up in front of a house and have 15 trash cans out there and be picking up just whatever's there.
The $150,000 that you're putting into the closure fund, is that every year?
Yes, ma'am. It has been since 2010.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell. Okay, next we have the Woodway traffic study. I think everyone should have a copy of what staff prepared for us. Go
Yes,
ahead,
good.
Mr. Short, if you want to
Certainly. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. As you just mentioned, Mayor, in your read file should have been a copy of a memorandum that staff drafted that lists 15 options for calming traffic in Woodway subdivision. Now, at the time, we were unsure as to whether speeding was the primary problem or whether cut-through traffic was, and so we included options for both. Since then, I've found out from, police chief told me that from their enforcement actions out there, they had seen very little speeding, if any. There had been cut-through traffic, and the primary citations that they had written had to do with running stop signs. And so with that information, I think the cut-through traffic is probably more of the problem than the speeding, but they're all listed here, and we can certainly discuss any of them. I can answer, and of course, these are listed in, from least expensive to most expensive. The other thing I was going to say, they're separated by staff options and then options that we had heard, from others. And there are two options from others that I wanted to just mention that I think are really probably not real viable solutions, and that is number 12 and number 13, primarily because they don't follow established engineering practices or standards. Option 12 is the option of installing a left turn out, right turn in at Railwood off of Nursery, and we had discussed that here at a previous council meeting and had a picture up of it. That one, that one's a dangerous option, in my opinion. I think it's going to lead to accidents, and I think that any traffic engineer you ask that is probably going to say that. I think because it is a capital project, a public work, it has to be stamped by a registered professional engineer before you bid it. I think you're going to have, I think we would have a very hard time finding an engineer that would agree to stamp a project like that. The other option here is number 13, that is installing school zones on Chimney Rock. The reason I think that's not a real viable option is because they're, the MUTCD, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, is very specific about the location and the use of school zones, and they are to slow traffic in an area where pedestrians, actually children, are walking to and from a school. And in this case, that's not the situation that you've got, especially when you have, you have no sidewalks on Nursery, no school zone on Nursery, no school zone on Main, no school zone on West Tropical. I think it would be difficult to put a school zone here. So anyway, those two options, they're listed there because we've heard them. You could certainly consider them, but at the end of the day, our recommendation, staff's recommendation, is that not to do any of these options. Our recommendation is to wait, and at the point that Ball Airport is extended across Spring Creek and tied in between Millette and Nursery Road, at that time, that crossing will go in and West Tropical can be eliminated, and that will, I believe, correct the problem, or, at least reduce it. We can certainly discuss any of these options, and it's your decision, certainly.
Now, council, we don't have to have any decisions or anything if you want to take this and digest it some more. And I know, Jeff, you
Yes,
requested it, so.
I still want to sit back down with the neighborhood association and go through this. I know they haven't had a chance to look at it. Can this get posted on the website, or is there another, because it's not in the meeting packet?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
We can.
Would you do that, and just to make it easier for them to get to? And I'll provide them with one hard copy as well. Let me sit down with them. I appreciate you taking the time to go through this.
Certainly.
I know you've done it a lot of times.
I just would add that, the situation was created over time through development in that area, and I think the solution is solved with further development. That's just an observation after having discussed this issue considerably for a lot of years, but it's still an issue. I understand that.
Yeah, no, if I had good, firm handle on when that Ball Airport Road would happen, I'd feel better about. saying,
Totally
let's-
agree.
Let's wait, but,
We can discuss that when the CIP list comes around.
yeah, but still
I've
not in
been
the near
poking on
future.
Ball Airport Road for about 8 years.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank
I
you.
had two
Oh,
questions.
absolutely.
Is it Woodway that has a deaf zone? I thought I saw a sign where there's some signage that says to slow down because there's some
Deaf child.
children that are deaf.
Oh,
They can't hear?
possibly could be one in there. I think so, yes.
Okay, there is. I thought that's what I saw. So besides a school zone or any other type of zones, I didn't know there was such a thing as a deaf zone. That kind of surprised me. Other zones that could be explored.
I mean, you could just lower if lowering the speed limit is your intent, we could just lower the speed limit on Chimney Rock without even having to establish any kind of zone. You know, by ordinance, we could just lower it to 20.
That's not going to help.
But
I don't think it's gonna be
It goes back
effective.
to the question, is it the cut-through traffic that the residents don't like, or is it the speeding, or is it both?
And the other thing, your number 5 solution, when I was reading that, it occurred to me at that point, why don't we make Nursery Drive a one-way? Is that possible, or is that county?
We've discussed it.
We've discussed it. I
Half
leave
the
it for a
neighbors want it.
future
Yeah.
discussion.
And half don't, yeah. Yeah,
It's doable.
We could do that.
You could
The
do
city
that.
could. So I didn't know, okay, all right.
Yeah, you could do that.
It solves it for half the day.
And it may cause a lot of other problems with Tropical Acres residents, Lake Forest South residents coming back in. So,
We have a lot of residential homes out in that area that have come up over the last several years.
Oh, I know.
That use that nursery drive.
all right.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Okay, Habitat for Humanity, there was some more discussion Ms. Elise wanted to have.
Did you have questions for Jared, Ms. Solis, or
Well,
did you?
I wanted to find out if, first, I want to find out what the intentions are of the other lots that were left.
Give it to him.
The staff's intention would be to continue on the pattern that we've been to, sell them to whoever wants them. We have 3 more lots since we last spoke that are officially under contract to the builder, and I understand today that there's 2 more that are about to go under contract. So our preference or suggestion would be to, let's just let the market continue to do what it's doing and absorb the lots. If Habitat needs more lots a year from now, then we can revisit that and see what we have available. At the rate we're going, I think there's going to be lots available next year for them. But beyond that, I can't guarantee that. We've done, I guess for 2014, we've probably done 9 to 10 homes. It's hard to assume that you can do that many more next year. It may increase.
Okay, well, with those 9 or 10, how many were Habitat, or are those all?
Oh, no, those were all market homes. It does not
Okay.
include the Habitat.
Okay.
As you may know, a lot of the homes that are back there in the cul-de-sac, those are all new within the last year or so.
Okay.
And we have 3 more homes that are about to begin construction, kind of in the middle of the subdivision where that entrance is off of Hanselman. We have
Yeah, 'cause
3.
those 3 on the Lovitt Drive, those are new, aren't they? 'Cause those.
Those are
were-
newer. Those are actually almost 2 years old. 2 of those down there are probably about 3 years old. One of them's about 2 years old.
Well, I guess we can let the market decide, as long as we have other people available to go in there. I mean, that was the main reason for that subdivision, and if we just keep giving the lots away, then what opportunity are the other people going to have if they can afford something down there?
Well, and, we've given Habitat 3 more lots. We just did that. They're given 3 more lots, but as I said, we've just transferred 3 more to the regular program. So we're certainly, at the current pace, building more program homes than we are habitat, so.
Okay.
And don't forget, we have a real estate agent that is actively selling those lots and
That's what I was
working,
going to say.
and
Is it in
working
the
with
ML
homeowners.
The multiple listing? So other real estate agents can also show
So,
the area?
but there's one in particular that has dedicated to try to sell those lots and help people become homeowners.
Right. Yeah, 'cause I had a call from a realtor asking, about the lots. Okay.
Absolutely, they can just call.
They can call the
us.
office, talk to Darla.
Okay.
It's just, there's been one that's really been working the program and has gotten most of these recent homeowners in. But anyone can help us do that. We'd welcome
I'll tell them to call you then.
welcome that activity for sure.
Absolutely, please.
And certainly, I'll take this opportunity, if there's another builder out there that is interested in building in the neighborhood, we'd love to talk to them.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Jared. I'll go ahead and ask if Chief Craig would come forward, and I wanted to kind of preface that obviously in light of the recent events, and we're all aware of what's occurred with his department, I think it's a good opportunity for the chief just to give us a very brief overview of what he is working on and how he's handling this. I would encourage council to just refrain from questions. Obviously, you can do what you choose, but I would encourage we wait till after he's through with his investigation. But I thought, again, this would be a good time just to hear an overview from him briefly.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. The Police Department is currently in the process of a administrative internal investigation concerning the events that occurred on December 11th. Excuse me. That investigation is not yet complete. However, I want to assure council and members of the public that we intend to do a very full and fair and thorough investigation into the facts surrounding the event that evening. Excuse me. I've also asked the Texas Rangers, invited them to come in and do a criminal investigation into the facts surrounding the case, and I welcome their independent review of that. I have no timeline on when their investigation is going to be complete. I hope that our internal investigation will be complete soon. The officer involved, Officer Robinson, has been on administrative leave pending the outcome of those two investigations. At this time, that was all I really was prepared to discuss with you tonight. So I'll open it up to back to you, Mayor, and if there's any questions.
Well, as I mentioned, that was good enough for me. I don't know if council has something they just have to ask. You can, but I would.
I just have a comment.
Okay.
Back
Thank
in
you,
June, and I don't know if you're aware of this, I brought to Charmel's attention, and I think I even brought it up during the city council meeting, that there was a gentleman that came to my office and had gotten a wrongful ticket. He got a ticket for an inspection sticker. He goes to go get an inspection sticker done, and it's already, they told him there's nothing wrong with your inspection sticker. It's your license plate. So he goes and he gets his license plate. And then he comes over here to municipal court, and he's charged the full bill, $206. He pays it, and then he came to my office, and he said, "I'm mad." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I got a ticket." He was saying he was mad because he was mad at himself for having, but the problem was that I called Charmel and I told her, "Look, what can this man do to get his money back?" I said, "Y'all need to look into the officers that are giving out tickets that are not valid. Had he gone to court, that ticket would not have stood, right?" Because I talked to Thomas, and he told me, "Tell the man to come in." He says, "I can't." He says, "I already spent $206. I'm not going to pay again for, to file in court." So that was brought up in June. I don't know if somebody told you about it, because I told Charmel, we're going to get into some problems because of this.
Ms. Solis, I think that may be a comment more for my department, the municipal court, than it is for Chief Craig's police department.
Okay, I understand. But I'm just saying that I was bringing the situation to light to inform you that there could be a possibility that you would issue out a ticket that wasn't valid. And I just said, train the people, just have them understand what they're passing out.
Why don't
That's all
you
it's-
visit with the city attorney at a later date, and maybe he can help resolve that.
Just to answer, Ms. Solis, we did look at that, and we did pass the information along. So that,
Okay.
your concern
Yes.
was looked at.
Absolutely.
So
At
it
that-
wasn't ignored.
At that time, we looked into it. The man you were talking about had actually pled guilty to the offense, and there's no way that within municipal court you can undo a guilty plea and a pay other than for him to appeal that to district court. And so I believe we offered that information for him to take that action on his own, but that, again, would be something he would have to do on his own. Let me take this opportunity, though, to say that our municipal court, I think, does a very good job of ensuring that people are treated as innocent until they are proven guilty or until they plead guilty. And I encourage all citizens who receive traffic citations or any other type of citation to come down to municipal court to meet with the prosecutor and tell their side of the story. Because, you know, it doesn't have to be as simple as simply coming in and paying your ticket. You always have an opportunity to present your side of the case to the prosecutor or subsequently to the judge or jury.
Are they informed of that?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think he was. Another question that somebody asked me, Chief, was in the case of a stop, a routine stop, does the citizen have the right to ask anything? They're so scared, they just, you know, they don't know whether they should ask. What is their rights? Can they ask the police officer anything?
Yes. And the way a typical, I don't want to say typical or routine traffic stop should go, but is a process that should be occurring when the traffic stop is initiated. It should include a welcome by the officer. It should be an explanation as to why they're being stopped. It should be requesting basic information like driver's license, registration, that information. But there's always an opportunity after that, after those questions are delivered to the person that was stopped, that they would give an opportunity to respond back.
Okay. Because somebody asked me that today, and I said, well, I'll ask, because they say that, you know, when they get stopped, if they say something, they're afraid that, you know, they may get, you know, get contempt or something because they asked a question. So what right do we have to ask, you know, if they're stopping us for something that we believe that we're in the right? Can they question the police officer?
Yes. I mean, they can ask questions concerning what the officer just advised them.
Right, okay.
And then, of course, if they disagree with the assessment of what the officer is telling them, then they have a right to go to municipal court and to present their case to the judge and their side of the stop to the judge. So there is a process by which the citizen would have an opportunity to voice their side of the story.
JJ, too, if a citizen's not happy with the way they believe the police officer treated them, there's a process to come down and file a formal complaint. And then you all will open an investigation based upon that formal complaint.
Yes, if the citizen is alleging some sort of misconduct on the part of the officer, there's avenues that we look into those all the time. And you can find that on our website. You can find that, you know, where the information is readily available. You can call communications. You can call our on-duty supervisor, and we will look into each one of those cases, and we do.
Okay, because somebody had also asked that, they were looking for it in the online. I guess they didn't go into the right department or something, I don't know, but they were asking, what is the procedure? And if it's something that they could see online or find online.
Yes, there is.
It is, okay.
Can I have a point of clarification? Sure. The officer is, I've read duty, leave, without, define what exactly the officer his status is right now.
He's on administrative leave, meaning he's not physically located at the police department.
But he's still on pay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, items from council still open. Is there anything else anyone would like to add before we move on?
I just wanted to present this one letter. Sorry, I stepped out. Woodways Homeowner Association had
Okay.
a letter. They didn't know how to get it to us, and that was,
So we'll have copies made for everyone? Is this for everyone in the council?
yes, I should give it to
Okay.
Ms. Garrett or
How you-
Oh, can I scan it?
We can do it right now.
Scan it and send it out to everybody? Sure. I mean, just via email.
Okay. Very good. Okay, nothing further from council. We'll move into citizens' communication. Now, I will say we'll have the clock up on the screen, and anyone who wants to come at the podium and speak about anything at all, please,
Related to city business.
related to city business, and out of kindness to everyone else, limit your comments to 5 minutes. So now's the time. Come on forward. Give us your name and address for the record.
Mayor,
Honorable council members, my name is Kenneth Schusterite. I live at 275 Bass Lane. I live in the ETJ of Victoria. Members have been made aware that the river is completely plugged with logs. Members have been made aware of the fact that the impermeable cover being constructed in the watershed of the Guadalupe and Blanco rivers will, without doubt, drastically increase the flooding should we have the same rain event as we had in 1998. Common sense says you are aware that the water will come down because of that faster and higher. I guess my question is why council won't speak with the Attorney General's office and make GBRA honor their enabling act, which says they are responsible for the condition of the river. Bill West himself said, and I quote, "It's our job to steward the resource." All you've got to do is go down there and look at that mess and ask yourself, are they stewarding the resource? And the answer is no. I spoke with Mr. Gush about options available, and there is only one option. Council itself must address this problem with the Attorney General's office and force GBRA to do their job, to do what their enabling act says they are responsible for. The question will be, for each of you, if you do nothing, and we have the same exact rain event as 1998, and people die, your question will be, what did I do? What could I have done? Well, I've made it obvious 2 or 3 times now. It's your obligation. I shouldn't have to say this, but it's your obligation representing the people who put you in office to hold GBRA responsible for that plugged mess down there. And the other item that I had was a definition. When you go to law school, one of the first things you learn is definitions. The definitions of the language used for the law. So when somebody comes along and redefines something, it makes me nervous. The water table reservoirs, now let me get this as clear as I can possibly be. The water table reservoirs on the Lower Mission Valley Road that were donated to the city are exactly that. They are water table reservoirs. Most of the feed coming into those lakes comes from the water table, where I get my water, just a few hundred yards up the hill. If you need some water, take some water. I got no problem with that. Nor does anybody else out there on that hill. But when you redefine the water table reservoir as off-channel storage, it makes me nervous. So I have only one question. When are you going to do something about those log jams? It's obvious GBRA doesn't want to, despite the fact that they have a $71 million budget surplus this year. When are you going to do something? That was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shoestrite. Citizens communication is still open. If anyone else would like to come up. I see no one jumping up to come speak, so we'll close citizens communication and move into our ordinances.
Ordinance C1 is an ordinance amending Chapter 24 of the Victoria City Code related to fees, increasing various fees for services administered by the City County Health Department, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for codification and savings, and declaring an effective date. This is a first reading, so we will need a public hearing.
Let's go ahead and open the public hearing first. If anyone would like to come forward and speak on this specific topic, now's the time to do so. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing on C1 and entertain a motion.
Move we adopt.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second on C1. Discussion?
These come from the county, and it's our contribution.
I wouldn't call it our contribution. The mechanism by which the City County Health Authority collects its fees is that they have to be established by the city. Dr. Cate's in the audience, and Dr. Cate, I hope you'll correct me if I misstate something. This is the mechanism by which the City County Health Authority sets its fees.
But it's a joint department.
That's correct.
Yep, jointly funded.
It's not jointly funded.
Not jointly
I want
funded?
to, yeah, it's, the county health department takes care of issues within the city. We establish ordinances that they do enforce for us, and then these fees. So years ago, we did some split of funding for the county health department, as we did with the library. We cleaned that up several years ago. So there's no money exchanged for them to take care of issues within the city, except for taxes paid. But the city does not write a check to the county.
Right, okay.
Mr. Alvarez, did you have a question?
When was the last time I thought we just did some fees for the city county recently.
Last year, about this time
January.
last year.
Was it these fees or these are other fees?
I'm sure it's some of these fees, I'm not sure.
Any of the same fees?
Is it same?
Same fee. Dr. Cate is saying yes, they're the same fees.
So, but the answer was the city does not fund the city health department.
That's correct.
No, these fees are what our residents pay to that department. I guess we still just retain some approval status over the fees.
That's right.
What's their budget, do we know? We
Health
have no data
department's
on that?
budget?
I don't know.
We don't know your
You want-
budget, Dr. Cade? Well, what is it? Is it $1 million to operate that department, or $500,000?
As always, the total budget, when you include all revenues from state and other sources, it's around $4 million. But actual
Local dollars.
local dollar-funded budget, whether that's through fees or through their taxes, their transfer from the county treasury to the health department, it runs around 1.3 million. So we have a substantial amount of help from
These
outside
fees
agencies.
represent how much of that 1.3 million, you think? 20%? Less?
No, about 20% when you, well, it's hard, I don't separate out the city fees from the county fees. They're one and the same. Usually the county sets the same fee as the city does. But, as far as our revenue budget, there's no separation as to whether a citizen of the city pays that or a food establishment pays that or that kind of thing. And so I apologize. I would think that it's based on population percentage, and so it's probably, total fees are around 20-25%.
In some of the calculations for your adjustment, or for the adjustments, you're calling for 2 inspectors to do
Yes.
some of these activities, these things?
We started doing that about 6-7 years ago, and for a variety of reasons. As far as the food establishment goes, One, so that if you have somebody who's having a bad day, the other person can balance them out. And then also, so it improves the time. It's a little faster. We're not sitting around there for hours upon hours.
So 2 inspectors go to a food establishment?
Usually. Sometimes it's only one, if someone's sick or something. But, yes, sir, that's the normal operating procedure, yes.
Well, I mean, I just think that's kind of inefficient, but of course, I don't know what all is involved in that.
It was done in order to balance out, I mean, to get 2 different opinions of the same place, and they tend to...
So it's still a very subjective process?
Oh, it always is, yes. Sorry.
Your
about
clean
that.
may not be my clean.
Very much, and that's an admitted, I mean, we do the best we can, but we're fallible,
How long ago did you say y'all started using 2 inspectors?
I think about 6, 7 years ago. I can look that up, but it's just, and also it may not be at the inspection, but sometimes they'll come back. Usually it's at the inspection too, but they'll go out and do a whole group of places all morning or all day, depending on where it is.
Does only one inspector sign the report?
Yes. And so they have to take the word of the other inspector that what they saw. Because a lot of times, if it's a big establishment, they will split off. One will go to this area, one will go to that, and it's different animals.
Well, the report, I appreciate your report. It's very good. Thank you for that detail. You outlined your cost. I was very pleasantly surprised.
I was coached by a city manager and city attorney, or not coached, that's a bad term, I know, in municipal court. But
City attorneys advise.
I was advised to do that. And admittedly, Mayor, I was a little, I wouldn't say ticked off, irritated at the initial request, but it actually ended up, unfortunately, for one of the fees in particular, the quarantine fee went up exorbitantly, but it was because of the time study that we did on that. And we have never had the correct fee on that one, so, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was a good thing.
I appreciate that. The only suggestion I would have is for me, and I've mentioned this here with some of our departments, I like to see a historical. So like maybe if you had the last 3 years of fees, maybe next year, and just add to it. Just show us what it was for the last prior 3 years.
I did do some research, and we actually, the fees were increased, like Mr. Alvarez said, last year. A fairly significant number of them were increased last year. And then prior to that, they were increased in 2012, but it wasn't as many of them. And we just kind of missed the boat in 2013. That was our fault. We simply did not present anything.
For many years, the permit fee had not remained unchanged. I know this personally.
Mm-hmm.
And someone must have woke up and said, we're not charging enough. They've been adjusting it on a more reasonable basis each year. It's the same thing we encourage our departments to do. Don't wait till it gets critical, adjust as necessary. Yeah. And that's good advice for everyone.
That's right.
Well, thank you. Council, did you have a comment?
I was just going to do a reminder, I think y'all all remember the county's fiscal year is actually the calendar year, January 1. It's different than ours.
That's why we're bringing it this month, yeah.
Yes, sir, that's one of the reasons.
That y'all honored that request last year as well, and appreciate that.
Very good, very good. Okay, council, no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
One opposition.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Dr. Kate. Okay, C2.
C2 is an ordinance amending Chapter 21, Article 2, Division 2, Section 21-70 of the Victoria City Code to provide greater flexibility for construction reimbursements authorized by City Council, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for codification and savings, and declaring an effective date. This is a first reading, so we will need a public hearing.
Let's go ahead and open the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this issue specifically, now is the time. Please come forward. Okay, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we adopt C2.
Okay, we have a motion to second. Mr. Mayfield, did you have comments?
Only if you have questions.
Okay. I thought this was smart planning. I was kind of surprised at how we operated before this. This makes things move faster.
Well, as a reminder, it always comes back to council for approval.
Right,
So,
right, but
with a
on a as
resolution,
needed as
yes.
opposed to this rigid, yeah. Okay, very good. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. And C3.
Item C3 is a public hearing on the CDBG Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report for the period from October 1st, 2013 to September 30th, 2014. Mayor and council, there's no action required tonight, only a public hearing.
Okay, so let's open the public hearing on C3. If anyone was here to come talk about this with us. Okay. Don't see anyone, we'll close that public hearing. And I suppose if council has questions, now would be the time.
Just quick, when do we start planning for the new one?
We'll start that probably a month from now. I believe we'll be back. Is it January 20th? We'll be back the second meeting in January to open up discussion with council on what your priorities would be for the next 5 year. You're talking about the 5-year plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Are we completing the 5-year here?
The
Or
budget,
2015.
we're in the last fiscal year of the 5-year
We got one more
plan.
year.
Yes, sir.
15.
Yes, sir. But we'll start planning
16
this
plus.
spring for the 16, and we'll,
Okay.
of course, we'll adopt that budget and action plan this summer. So we'll be back in January to discuss your priorities. Obviously, you have any questions? I know you just got it tonight. It's draft. The whole point is to open it up. We advertised for a public hearing tonight, so it's one of the HUD's requirements. There's 62 pages of information in there. It admittedly repeats itself. HUD has a nice little checklist that causes us to repeat ourselves. So, but it matches their checklist. So that's why it is written the way it is. It's hard to sit down and read 62 pages of this. But anyway.
We know.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I know.
But anyway, just to say, overall, our programs met or exceeded all of our expectations that were outlined in the action plan. We had very good results from all of our public service agencies and the public facilities. So everything has really been moving very smoothly. So we're excited, and as you get a chance to digest the report, you can see that many of the agencies met or exceeded their goals. So it's been a good year.
Very good.
Excited to see where y'all want to focus in the next 5 years as well.
The feds or the state, who audits us?
The feds, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Do we get that annually or how often?
Get that annually. It's an annual entitlement. It's around 560. Looking for Darla, 560,000 or somewhere in that range is what our current entitlement is.
But do they issue a letter, or an audit letter? Or
Yes, sir. It'll be a couple of months. We're obligated to turn this in by the end of December, and usually within 60 days or so, they've returned an audit letter back, asking for comments or clarification or giving us the all clear.
That's public file?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's got tremendous strings attached to it. And you pull 15% for overhead for administration?
It's around 16.5%, but that's
16,
pretty,
okay,
we can
'cause
go
I'm-
up to 20%.
I remember when it was about 1.2 million and 1.4, and so I've been thinking that percent of overhead, there's a point where it's almost not worth it now. I'm certainly not saying that now at all. It's obviously worth to continue it. I know it's a lot, and your department does a good job of administering it and meeting all those requirements.
It's a lot, but yes, we're
Yeah.
down to one person doing that, so.
Jared, of this money from this 5-year period, are we going to have any unallocated funds that we're going to be able to reallocate? Is that 63,000 or?
Some of that unallocated, of course, this is those tables in there are a snapshot of where we were September 30th.
Okay.
Some of that money we anticipated, and it's already in the new fiscal year budget. But yes, I apologize, I don't know the exact amount that's left over, but not all of that
It's going to be
63,000
reallocated.
is available. We've every year reprogrammed some of that unallocated budget. So,
It's
but we have a
just
little
going to be
bit.
added back to the one that the award that we get this year, right?
I'm sorry?
It'll be added back to the award that we
Yes,
have
ma'am.
this year. And
Yes,
then we
ma'am.
can
When we
use
come
it.
to you this spring, whatever's left, we'll provide that along with whatever the annual entitlement is. So,
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
all right, thank you.
Mayfield. So the consent agenda, why don't we just do D1, 4, 5, and 6 first?
1, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
I thought we pulled just number 2?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, my
Okay.
mistake.
All right, so item D1 is the approval of minutes of the regular meeting of December 2nd, 2014, and the minutes of the special meeting on December 4th, 2014. Item D3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Phillips Productions Incorporated for the purchase of advertising time on the Texas Country Reporter statewide network in an amount not to exceed $36,000 and declaring an effective date. Item D4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute renewal of the fiscal year 2014 contract for mowing of drainage ditches and outfalls with WW Services in the amount of $311,590 for fiscal year 2015 and declaring an effective date. Item D5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to pay the annual water system fee for the city's surface water treatment plant to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality in the amount of $59,868.90 and declaring an effective date. And D6 is a resolution awarding the traffic signal installation Houston Highway at Zacklands Parkway project to D&G Energy Corporation for their low bid of $338,014.50, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to complete the project and declaring an effective date.
Council?
Move we adopt.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. So D2.
That takes us to D2, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Texas Monthly for the purchase of advertising space in Texas Monthly magazine in an amount not to exceed $33,925 and declaring an effective date.
Yes, I just had a,
Can we have a motion first?
Move to adopt D2.
Second.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hagan.
Jose, I just wanted to ask you, and it really, I should have pulled 2 and 3, but anyway, 2's fine. It allows us to discuss the subject. You know, we're spending a lot of money on advertising through magazines and whatnot, and I read here in the D2, it talks about that we have a 71% increase in, I guess, unique visitors to our website. Do we attribute those unique visitors to our print advertising that we're spending?
Well, we run a pretty broad-based campaign right now. Now, in years past, Texas Monthly had been one of the mainstays in the print campaign, and just knowing it was going to be presented, we do list our website basically on all our print ads. So it is a way for print to transfer into kind of a hit on the website. And in cases of print ads like this, typically in Texas Monthly, what we advertise are the events that we have here in town. And all the events basically for more detail, it's all on the website, and so we use print ads to direct people to our website. It's just one of the ways we use all the various tools that we have. Texas Monthly, the television advertising that you mentioned that we do on Bob Phillips on the Texas Country Reporter show, those all indicate that they do support a broad-based campaign for Victoria. You know, the city has been doing the marketing and the advertising through the CVB now for really just 4 years. Because for whatever reason, prior to that, the CVB, well, there was a year when the CVB was funded. The last year, it was the Chamber of Commerce Department. But prior to that, they really had not advertised a whole lot really in any statewide, if you will, publications, any statewide magazines. We're in the process of still using a little bit of print, but the vast majority probably of our advertising campaigns is definitely directed through electronic media. We do a lot of paid posts on social networking sites. So we still use a broad base in terms of broad-based media, in terms of all the different things that we're using. And I think right now print still has some value for us. Texas Monthly is kind of a unique market. They're affluent people, a little bit more affluent than a lot of average Texans, and they travel a lot. And the demographics seem to back up the fact that it's reaching a different market that we don't hit with some of our other outlets. Texas Highways, which is probably a contract we'll get next month, is kind of more an official travel magazine for the state of Texas, and it's something, again, we feel is very effective for us. Plus, one of the benefits of advertising in these magazines, we get kind of some perks from it. We'll get pieces in Texas Highways, we get pieces in Texas Monthly, or at least the online edition, as part of the print edition tie-in, if you will. So, yes, we are definitely, I would say, focusing more and more on electronic media, but there's still some value in print given where Victoria is in the long-range plans of just trying to increase awareness of Victoria as a travel destination. I think we definitely can still use some print advertising right now.
One thought I might have for as we move forward, and we've been doing this for a while now, is just taking a real close look in the future. What is the most economical way to get drive those views to the website? Which is what venues? Because we're doing multiple venues. Where are we getting our biggest bang for our buck? And actually, if we can quantify it in any way, I don't know how you do that. If there's a way to quantify what's really driving that increase in traffic, and so we could focus our largest amount of resources to that versus something that may not be as beneficial.
Right. Well, we've cut back on print quite a bit. I mean, we used to be, we transitioned out of it, when the CVB became a city department, basically. They were in Texas Monthly for 1 year, literally 12 months out of the year. They were spending $100,000 in Texas Monthly. Obviously, when the city took it over, when the chamber decided not to renew their contract that they'd had for 20 some odd years, we took it in a different path. And we continue to make inroads. The thing about print advertising is it's got a longer kind of life, if you will. Texas Monthly is in a lot of doctors' offices besides being read. It's one of the things we've continued to reduce because there is a transition. And certainly, I would agree with you 100% that in the future, electronic media is definitely going to be the way to go. And frankly, electronic media that's also basically aimed at mobile devices. And we're putting a lot of money into that. Our website, as is the city's website, the CVB's website is definitely looks like a mobile phone app and is driven by mobile device compatibility, and we will continue to do that. And it probably won't be too long before we're not doing a whole lot of print advertising, with two exceptions. One, the Bob Phillips Texas Country Reporter Show is a travel television program. They've done several features on sites in Victoria. We think it inspires people to travel. Texas Highways is kind of the same thing, but in a print edition. So I think there are specialty trade publications or a format like television that do work for us. Texas Monthly is just one of those things. It's a very relevant magazine, but it hits a market that we probably don't hit in any other outlet with the rest of our advertising, including probably a lot of electronic advertising that we do.
Thank you, OC. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, OC. Does anyone doubt he loves his job? He loves his job. Don't. We're good. We're good. Very good. No further comments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
There's 13 department heads that love their job.
Oh, I know that, of course.
And they're all passionate.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, we'll move into resolutions.
Item E1 is a resolution appointing members to the Victoria Sales Tax Development Corporation and declaring an effective date. Mayor and council, this resolution as drafted has one blank in it that needs to be filled in before we can pass the resolution. So I would prefer to do that before taking a motion on the resolution. As we have done in the past, I have ballots prepared for voting on those, on filling in that one blank.
So we have 3 spots, and Mr. Bales, Torn Bales, does not want to renew. That's the vacancy. And then we have currently Mr. Halapaska as one of our council appointees, and Jan Scott, who both wish to continue. Why don't we, on those two, Jan and Tom, if there's any discussion, is everyone okay with them?
I'd asked last time when these 2 individuals were appointed, what years?
Ms. Swoboda has that.
Ms. Scott was appointed in 2007.
Okay. Tom, you said 2010?
Yeah, Councilman Halapaska in 2010.
Okay.
I'd like to see Ms. Scott come up for at least, not just be automatic, that she be up for vote with the rest of the citizens.
Okay. We can do that. We can have an individual vote for that spot and then for Torn Bales' spot separate. Well, okay, so that's fine. Anyone have any opposition to that?
Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Solis has pulled his application for consideration.
Yes, ma'am. I saw that email. So thank you for reminding us all. Okay, so, and again, we'll have a separate vote on each of till we get all three names, and then we'll have the motion and pass it, assuming this all goes forward.
That's right.
You want to,
I'll be
what
happy
about
to
Mr.
walk through the
Halpasco?
process.
Let's just see, are we okay with Mr. Halpasco? Well, I don't know if we're okay with him, but a little gap. But I think his service on I would like to see him continue on the sales tax board. I have no problem with that, so. Seeing no objection, we'll assume your name will stay on. Why don't we go ahead and vote for Ms. Scott's position? Now, everyone has a number of, you've got them
I have ballots pre-printed. The
Okay.
ballots include the 6 names that were in your packet, and we'll need to make some adjustments for the purpose of voting for Ms. Scott's position. First, please cross through number 4, Gabriel Solis, since he has withdrawn his name from consideration. And then please add into blank 7, Ms. Scott's name, Jan Scott, since she is being considered for her seat. Additionally, there were 2 applications that were received subsequent to the packet being published, Mr. Ty Zeller and Mr. Robert Cortez. If you wish to vote for either of those candidates, please write their name into spot number 8. As we've done in the past, please put your name at the top. These are a public record. We do not do secret ballots. And please put a number 1 in the upper right-hand corner of your ballot in case we have multiple balloting and need to keep our ballots straight. If you'll pass them back to me, Scarlett Swoboda and I will tabulate the votes, and we will let you know what's going on.
Just voting for one name?
One
Yeah,
name,
okay.
just to fill the spot currently held by Jan Scott.
we'll have a separate vote after this name.
Good question. That's right. That's right. I've screwed this up before, so nobody can ask.
This is really Jeopardy music.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's all going through our heads anyway. So just for the record, while we're waiting, it's the members current of sales tax is myself, Tom, Josie, of course Jan Scott, who, depending on whether she gets reelected, Louis Knight, longtime council member, Chris Rivera, and Torn Bales, who is not going to be reappointed.
All right. The vote totals are 1 vote for Decatur Joseph, 1 for Lee Keeling, 2 votes for Jan Scott, 2 votes for Robert Cortez, and 1 vote for Ty Zeller. So we have a tie between Jan Scott and Robert Cortez. In order to break that tie, we should have a runoff ballot between only those 2 candidates. And so, if it pleases the mayor,
Yeah, let's
we
pass
will go through the same process a second time. 1, 2, 3, that direction.
Good thing you printed a lot of these.
I did. I anticipated with this many applicants that we may have to do this a few times. There's 4 to go that direction. Please put a number 2 at the top of this ballot so we know which one we're talking about now. I'm going to give the first round ballots to Ms. Swoboda, who will maintain these as part of the public record.
And the names again?
The
Jan
2.
Scott and Robert Cortez.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question. Mr. Mayor,
Uh,
good evening.
Yes, sir. Well, we have closed citizens communication. If you
I can't
have,
hear you.
Counsel, can you hold on 1 minute, sir?
Okay.
Do you need to address us about what we're doing currently or some other issue? Okay.
All right. Mayor and council, by a vote of 4-3, that is a reappointment of Jan Scott to, and so we will put her name or leave her name in the blank on the resolution for appointment. Now we need to consider the position that is vacant, made vacant by Torrin Bale's resignation. So this ballot will have a number 3 at the top. Again, please put your name at the top. We're considering all of the 7 people who have submitted applications. So that is the 6 that are on the ballot. Please remember, strike off Gabriel Solis's name. And then you can add in at the bottom Ty Zeller or Robert Cortez if you wish to vote for either of them. Thank you.
Well, yeah, just wait out, resolve their issue. Okay.
All right, the results of that ballot are 3 votes for Decatur Joseph, 1 for Lee Keeling, 1 for Ty Zeller, and 2 for Robert Cortez. And so we will put the name Decatur Joseph into the remaining blank on the resolution. And then, Mayor and Council, we're considering a resolution to approve nominations for, let me turn to the right page, for Jan Scott, Tom Halapaska, and Decatur Joseph. Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. That is a very good point. The mayor is pointing out that that's a plurality and not a majority, and council has in the past said that they would prefer to nominate by majority rather than plurality. And so what we should do to resolve that is have a runoff of the highest 2 vote getters, which would be Decatur Joseph and Robert Cortez.
Yes.
So let's do that. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. You got ahead of yourself.
Okay, so now we're up to ballot number 5, I think.
No, 4.
No, ballot number 4. Thank you. So please put a ballot number 4.
It only seemed fast.
Yeah, I mean,
And we have talked about a better way to do this a lot, but this is just the easiest.
this really is the most efficient way to do this. It takes a while, but
It doesn't cost anything.
it,
So this is number 4.
this is ballot number 4. Please
And
put your name at
who
the
are the
top of the ballot.
candidates?
Mr. Joseph.
Decatur Joseph and Robert Cortez.
Robert Cortez, okay. Mr. Garza, you have addressed that gentleman's issue, looks like. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
That's a tie-breaking vote, 4-3 in favor of Decatur Joseph.
Okay. So our 3 names are Decatur Joseph, Tom Alapaska, and Jan Scott.
That's
that are-
correct.
That are on, excuse me, in E1. Now we can entertain a motion. Council.
Make a motion to accept E1 with Jan Scott, Tom Halapaska, and Decatur Josephs listed.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Thanks for your patience, council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. So E2,
E2 is a resolution appointing members to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals and declaring an effective date. Mayor and council, we had drafted this resolution including the name Gabriel Solis, Edward Guajardo, and Richard Janeca, each of whom desired reappointment. Since the time that that was drafted, you've seen the email from former Councilman Gabriel Solis asking to withdraw from nomination from that position. So that currently stands as a blank on our resolution.
does anyone have a name for that? This board.
It has to come from District 2, so I have to wait till I talk to somebody.
Oh, okay, that's right, it does. Okay. Do y'all want to wait and vote on this in January, or just approve these two, or it doesn't really
Get
matter?
these two approved.
Can we do that?
Absolutely. We can vote on this resolution with a blank in the position where Gabriel Solis's name currently is, and then we can bring it back later to fill that other position.
Okay, well, let's just do that. Is there, let's have a motion?
A motion to approve E2 with Ernest Guajardo for District 3 and Richard Janeca for District 4, and leaving District 2's position open right now.
Second.
Motion and a second. Okay, so no discussion. We all understand. We'll come back and fill that one later. so-
Okay, so do I just call you when I have a name and then it comes back on the agenda?
That'd be great.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Thank you. E3.
E3 is a resolution granting multiple variances to Section 5-154 of the Victoria City Code relating to billboards and off-premise signs to allow construction of a multi-tenant sign to serve AT&T, Frost Insurance, and Victoria Communication Systems, owned by KDT Partnership, and declaring an effective date.
Move we adopt E3.
Second.
Shy tonight. A little slow there. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion about this item? The packet, CM1 was
I have
pretty
a
good.
question.
Okay.
Are there any more lots out there for development?
Yes.
Why wouldn't the sign be constructed to have the other tenants? If this is what, we had talked about in the long-range vision, and we liked these signs and stuff, why wouldn't it just go ahead and be constructed?
That's a good question for the developer. I can tell you that staff is working on an ordinance revision that will make it possible to do multi-tenant signs without a variance. Our plan is to bring that to Planning Commission in January, so it'll be back before you in February. Assuming that goes well, then it'll take care of the situation out there. I can't speak for why the developer is only doing this.
Yeah, that's true.
No, you can't make it variance-proof. It'll be 700 pages long, and we'll still have, you know that. Okay, all right. Oh, I'm sorry. Any
I would
further-
like to amend E3 to include the proposed conditions per the Planning Commission.
Okay.
Second.
Now, let's find those.
They're on page 2 of your
Caught me off
CM1.
guard. No, that's okay.
There was 4.
Oh, yeah, they're on the end. Okay, so we have to pass the amendment first.
Yes, sir, but
I didn't
Do
know
I
we
need to
had to
state
do
all
that.
those?
it already includes the conditions. The resolution, which is item E3,
Okay.
on page 2, paragraph number 1, already says that the variance is granted with the following 4 conditions.
Okay.
So we don't need an amendment to include that.
All right. Withdraw?
Withdraw.
Second.
Please.
Okay, done. Withdraw. All right, we have a motion and second on E3. Is there any more comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. All right.
Item E4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with Republic Waste Services for 2 acres at the Victoria landfill to be used as parking for trucks and other equipment, and declaring an effective date.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any questions about this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item passes.
Thank you.
All right. City manager reports.
Lynn's getting up to talk about the long-awaited street inventory.
Yes.
We anticipate this every year.
Yes, good evening. I have for you this evening, for each of you, a copy of the 2014 street inventory. As you know, this is a tool we use to gauge the condition of our streets annually, and also to help us make decisions or recommendations to you with regard to street rehabilitation and repair.
I need one for Scarlett as well.
This report assigns a rating to each of the streets of 0 to 100 based on 13 criteria that include things like cracking, rutting, potholes, ride quality, these kind of criteria. The report is in 8 sections.
Wait just a second.
Okay. Yeah.
What you have to say is very important,
Okay,
so let's
thank
just
you.
wait.
Okay. The report is divided into 8 sections. There's an alphabetical listing of the streets, so you can look up the street rating for any individual street segment you may have. There's a worst to best list that ranks them, or lists them in order of rating from worst to best. There's a section that's divided by subdivision, a section that includes only thoroughfares. Near the end, I'll call your attention to some graphs in section 7. There are 2 graphs there that will kind of give you an idea of how we're trending. One of the graphs is the street condition trends, and it shows what percent of the total streets rank in one of several categories, those categories being very good, good, fair, poor, and very poor. And if you'll look, we have made some positive progress there. The number of street segments making up the very good category increased by about 6%. The percentage of street segments making up the good category decreased a little bit, but it was really less than 1% that decrease. The percentage of street segments rated fair decreased by about a little less than 3%, so that's a good thing. And then street segments rated as poor did increase, but only 0.2%. So while we're not making huge strides there, we are trending, and I think we're trending shows we're trending in the right direction. The other graph is the average condition rating by year, and you'll see there that for 2014 the average condition rating 87.2 versus 86.2 in 2013. So we did increase 1 rating point in 2014. So again, although we're not making quantum leaps, we are trending in the right direction, trending upward. I feel confident that some of the new maintenance we're going to be doing in 2015, the increased amount of rehab overlay that you've approved in the budget and CIP process is going to even push these trends higher. So, also I'll say section 8 is a map that shows by color which streets throughout the city. In other words, where the poor ones are, where the good ones are, and you can see they're scattered all over the city. And as you have requested in the past, we broke that map up into council districts and have that included in the front cover here of your inventory. I'll answer any questions you may have. I know you haven't had time to look at it. Certainly, if you have questions, don't hesitate to call, try to answer them. We will be using this in the very near future again as we start on our budget process soon and CIP. So,
See that big red line right in the middle there, which is Red River. I believe.
Crestwood, I think.
No, I think it's Red River.
Oh, there's a Red River in there too. That's a segment of it.
Yep.
Yeah, the long one there I think is Crestwood.
It is, yes, sir.
They're both in bad shape.
Yeah.
Red
Crestwood and
River's
Red River.
a degree worse than.
Yeah, that's
They're both
right.
in
You're
bad
right.
shape.
Yep, very good. Thank you. Very
Thank
well
you.
done, as always. Okay. OC, you get to come up again? Is
The
that-
last
you ready?
report is, I know OC's mentioned before, we have some reserve in our Boot Fest fund, and we'd like to, for you to consider letting us use some of that reserve.
Officer Hill is passing out a couple of pieces, and I thought I'd start with the graph first. I'll let him hand that out real quick.
Thank you.
Looking at the graph, I believe it was the last council meeting where we talked about the Boot Fest results. You had asked about the occupancy of hotels, and we did send a quick survey request out to our area hotels, I say area hotels, our city hotels, and we did get 6 replies back, and it is very interesting. A couple of things very interesting to note about that. One, Boot Fest weekend definitely had an increase in hotel occupancy from the prior week. Secondly, it's interesting that the occupancy rate continued to climb the following weekend and probably stayed fairly high through the month of October because of all the various events. Several hotels commented on the fact there were weddings and other events happening in hotels that continue to drive weekend occupancy. So again, and one hotel noted just above the graph there that they sold an estimated 6 to 7 rooms were sold for Boot Fest from that one particular property. I mentioned to the city manager that we are getting ready to have our first meeting with our travel partners for 2015. That's going to be the second week in January. And that's where we get the hoteliers together, we get the attractions together, people that run our attractions, our hoteliers. And basically what we talk about is all the things that are currently basically hot in the travel market locally. And one of the things we're going to visit with them is on, how we really need their help to try and determine a lot more solidly the kinds of people that are spending the night for Boot Fest weekend in their properties. And I think we'll get some cooperation. The simple fact of the matter is a lot of times they're not asking their staff to ask those questions, and it's something we're going to work on, and I think we'll frankly get a lot of cooperation. We also have been coming up with ideas. City manager came up with a great one, I thought, that we might implement. And we'll discuss that with you as we get closer to Boot Fest. But we will, I think, have a much better feel for hotels and Boot Fest night stays by the time the next Boot Fest rolls around. But the occupancy rate definitely is gone up. And again, it's a good indicator that things are happening on that particular weekend. It's not particularly scientific. There's probably other things contributing to that as well. But we feel confident that there are people staying in hotel rooms for Boot Fest. We're going to try and get much firmer figures on that next year. The other thing that I think is very significant is everyone knows how busy our hotels are during the week. These rates, even the weekend before Boot Fest, are very healthy occupancy rates for weekends given the history of what's been happening in Victoria. And you look at the weekend occupancy, the weekend after Boot Fest, which would be October 10th and 11th. As busy as hotels are during the week, those are incredible occupancy numbers for weekend traffic for Victoria. And certainly, there's a lot of things that contribute to the hotel occupancy in Victoria right now. Certainly industrial, business travel. We've got meeting spaces all over town. We were looking at kind of the services report a little earlier today. And as we upgrade council, we'll have a little bit more information on just kind of how the occupancy rate is going for some of the projects the CVB is working on. But I also wanted to mention that occupancies in our hoteliers are also driving down prices. We were meeting with the University of Houston Victoria today on the Claude Jacobs International golf tournament that's coming in. That's about 252 rooms. And we're already seeing prices below $89 being discussed for the hotels that have been offered a chance to host some of these golf teams that are coming in for it. So in addition to having wonderful occupancy, we're seeing competition possibly driving prices down a little bit, and we're also seeing a lot of very good hotel adjustments when groups inquire about group rates. So I think it's a positive project. And I should also mention, in case we didn't realize it, the city did set a record for hotel occupancy taxes collected in the last fiscal year. If you look at how much was actually collected, plus how much was rebated back to the two properties that have 380 agreements, we easily surpassed 2012 in terms of hotel occupancy tax dollars collected. And in checking with finance, the two properties that are basically being on 380 agreements that aren't actually reflected in collections, but they are hot taxes that are actually generated. Sorry, I picked up the wrong one. The Hilton Garden Inn, they have already rebated $241,000 back to the Hilton Garden Inn, and that was basically I'm sorry, that isn't correct. I'm sorry. They've rebated back $122,588, $122,588 basically that was the hotel that was incented for its meeting space. And we have a very nice list of meetings that have been held there. Homewood Suites, which was the first hotel room, the first new hotel that was built in Victoria was incented, and they've already incented back $163,508 back to Homewood Suites as their part. And that's 50% of the hotel tax collected from those properties is rebated back to them for either the first 5 years or until they reach their respective caps as established by council when those two hotels agreed to the taxable 380 agreements. So it was a very good year in terms of hotel occupancy tax this year.
I think Mr.
So they'll
Albert-
reach
I'm sorry.
5 years before they reach the cap, or what was the cap, do you know?
Finance is estimating that the Hilton Garden Inn will reach the cap before 5 years. They think Homewood Suites, being a less expensive property, is probably going to take, it'll max out at 5 years and probably won't collect the total that was expected to be rebated of $600,000. But it'd probably be fairly close, maybe $400,000 to $450,000 rebated back to them, half of that. So we are making some progress on occupancy throughout the year. And keep in mind, too, one thing, because certainly Eagle Ford Shale, the oil industry, is a big contributor to that. Keep in mind keep in mind that an oil company or any other business that's contracting their employees in these hotels, they pay no occupancy taxes at all. If they're longer than 30 days in a hotel, no hotel taxes are collected from those companies.
Okay, thank you. OC, do you have questions?
One thing of note is to note that besides rebating back to them, we're collecting still more than we used to. When the rebates are over with, that'll be over with 2 or 3 years here. But if you added in what the rebated amount is, it's real dramatic. Not just, it's good enough as it is. You add in the rebated amount, it's pretty dramatic.
It is. And in the way I'm calculating that, if the collections include, or what I'm saying sets the record is the total amount less the count. The finance has the second page of the hotel occupancy tax report that's on the website. It shows the tax collections in cash that are collected. And so the rebate is not included in that. But if you add up the part that's already rebated, those rebates are going to go away. It was absolutely a record-setting year in terms of hot taxes collected this year, which is exciting. Now, the problem with records is chances are you're not going to set one every year.
What are you going to do next year?
That's right. And we've got oil that possibly is experiencing possibly some downturn and some other things that are happening. It'll be very interesting to see how next year plays out.
That's why we plan.
That's right. That's exactly right.
While we're doing tournaments.
That's right.
Diversifying.
Yeah.
We're diversifying.
Well, and I don't want to get in too much detail, but I will say my understanding is, and this wasn't really what we're going to talk about, but you may recall that I guess 2 years ago, we got legislative approval for parks, to basically use hot funds to improve the youth sports complex. They have held 3 tournaments, and that was all completed. I think it was a little over $225,000. That was all completed and in place. They had their first 3 tournaments in November. And I don't want to steal Colby or Parks thunder, but they've done a great job. They have booked over 649 hotel room nights just with the 3 tournaments they've held there. The first 3 tournaments they've held there since the facilities were
Now,
upgraded.
you've got a hard number there.
Yes.
You just said, and
So-
they, okay. And they're able
Yes.
to verify. That's good.
Yeah, it's incredible. And,
How did they
and
verify that? How were they able to?
The great thing about sporting events, the same thing with UHV, we know exactly how many people are coming in, and the coaches are incented to, hey, we're going to give each coach a dozen baseballs for practice. You have to tell us how many of your players and teammates, or teams in the case of UHV, are staying in your hotel. And if you do, we'll give you a goodie bag and a survey, fill it out. That's an athletic event is pretty easy to track. And the same thing true with the UHV tournament that's coming in February. We're thinking we'll have at least 250 room nights for that. The thing like Boot Fest is a little bit tougher thing because you really can spend the night at any hotel. Most hoteliers aren't asking why people are in town for that particular weekend. So it's a little bit tougher to track.
Right. Do you get the sense the hoteliers are happy with how this is all?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
Especially
Very
given, and that's one of the things we're talking about. It's on the agenda to discuss at our first travel partner meeting in January, how well that program's going. And Colby and Parks are doing a fabulous job with the select baseball tournaments. I think it's going to be I think the hoteliers were very supportive of it to begin with, and they're going to really love the results that he's going to bring to them.
Is that meeting public? You said your travel partners?
That's a meeting between OC and those hotels.
It's
not
kind
a
of,
public meeting.
I don't know how,
Okay.
I don't know what the comments would be if it was a public meeting, but it is open to,
Okay.
it's really a travel
It's not a
professional
public meeting.
meeting.
There's no need for it to be
It's
a
an
public
internal
meeting. It's an
planning.
internal planning meeting. There's no
I'm
elected
just asking.
officials there.
Okay. Do y'all have any questions?
Well, and the real purpose that we're here tonight is to see if we can get council's approval to give us a little more money out of
The second page is on Boot Fest. You know, it is it is a wonderful event. 2015 is going to be our 5th Boot Fest, and as we discussed, I believe Dr. Young had a comment when we talked about Boot Fest numbers, talking about really what kind of capacity do we have at Boot Fest? Is there a way to raise any more funds with Boot Fest to help basically try and cover the cost of the event? And Saturday night is completely booked up. I mean, our safety teams are very wary of us trying to get any more people in the square that we have been getting on Saturday nights. And we did set a record this past year in terms of Saturday night crowds and total crowd over 2 days. But we do have a lot of room on Friday night. And one of the things, let me just go over this just real quickly. And I'll skip down to just item number 2 because I know it's been an interesting day. In 2014 for Boot Fest 2014, another $39,201 added to the remaining funds, increasing the Boot Fest balance to $186,215. We budget $65,000 total for our musical entertainment. Our Saturday headliner is typically the top act for the whole festival. It's going to draw probably more people than any other entertainer. But what we'd like to do is spend a little more money on Friday's acts and basically come up with 2 Saturday night lineups. And hopefully try and draw people on Friday night when we have some room, when we have some capacity in the square without, maximizing, while still maximizing safety from our basically our safety team. These bands are getting more expensive. We're probably going to have to see about possibly even raising our budget for entertainment in 2016 because the people we looked at and the groups we looked at last year that were already booked, we can't even afford them this year. But that aside, we have found some great people. We've found some great acts to kind of fill in on Saturday. If you remember, Friday night, we spent last year $24,250 on our Friday night talent. We spent $38,000 on the last 3 Saturday bands. We do have local bands playing before then that are very inexpensive, but good entertainment. So what we would like to request, depending on who we can get for Friday night, is possibly spending $20,000 of that $186,000 to see if we can increase the talent on Friday night and try and increase the crowd, the only night we really have capacity to increase the crowd.
OC, do you think the restriction or the lower crowds on Friday are specifically due to the talent that you have?
Well-
Or is it due to events that go on Fridays, be it football games, plus...
There are a lot of conflicts.
Plus people traveling, if they live out of town, say at Houston or any other place, and you want them to come to Victoria. It's tough to get off of work, make a long travel, make a commitment, get down here in time.
Yes.
And hence Saturday is a much more realistic goal or expectation in that regard.
I can't disagree that all those impact Boot Fest every Friday, every year. However, we do think, our thought, we had some very interesting discussion with the team that we use basically to select our musical team, Jonah Anderson, Joel Novosad, trying to figure out what we can do to possibly try and increase the audience on Friday nights. And if you look at it, it is fairly consistent. And we are aware that, yes, there are a lot of things going on. The last two Boot Fests, we've had a prom each of those Friday nights. There is always a Friday night football game. One of the local teams, if not St. Joe as well, may be playing football. But if we think if we try this, we don't know if this is going to work, frankly. However, everything we seem to indicate in the way that Joel and the way that Jonah have come up with the talent for $65,000, our thought is we think it will work because you're basically getting two Saturday night entertainers. It's a free concert. We can publicize the Friday night one, maybe even a little more. And we had all kinds of ideas. Should we throw maybe a short fireworks show? Do we need a bigger stage to put another band up there Friday night? Well, it's already a pretty long weekend for crews that are cleaning up after the event. It's a very long weekend for anybody that's working shift work over there. We decided against that. But we think if we have a little more money, that we can significantly increase the Friday night crowd. And that's, the crux of this. I certainly can't guarantee it's going to absolutely work. But we have a combination. We have several. I don't want to tip our hats to other festivals that are looking at possibly booking these same acts. But we think we do have a very good chance of increasing Friday night traffic, conflicts aside. And really, when you think about it, a lot of the events that conflict, and certainly Boot Fest is attended very well by our local population, obviously, but the people, we've never had a Friday night headliner with the draw that we've had every Saturday night. And we would like to see if getting two equal almost draws. And that's for all the bands. We had Los Amigos de los Segundo, a local band, as a Tejano band that opened this past Boot Fest, and it was pretty well received. We had Le Fibre on Saturday, which is a Tejano band that was the first band on the main stage. They both drew very well. And we'd like to, and they're from Pasadena, a very well-known Tejano band. We would like to start both nights with a Tejano band that has the Le Fibre type level, that has drawing, that has people that will come and do it, and hopefully try and just jumpstart both nights, but especially Friday night as kind of a test.
You need consensus from us, and this would come back as a budget amendment.
It would.
Basically is what you're asking for.
Yes,
tonight,
yeah.
and to see if this has an
Yes,
impact.
that's it. This balance is in a separate fund, as
Understood.
Finance explained to me, yes.
Okay, I don't have any problem with it. It's a wonderful event, and it gives you a little leeway to try to make some improvements. Council?
I'm on the fence about it, but I don't mind seeing it in an ordinance so I can think about it some more.
Okay, bring it back as a budget amendment.
I'd be a little reluctant to see us go any deeper in.
I understand.
Hold on.
I understand, sure.
We could bring it back as a budget amendment. You have time to think about it, so that's okay with you. That's two. Why don't we go over there on the end and go around?
I have certain reservations as well. It might be worth a one-year trial. I've got certain reservations as well. I'm not sure how much is intrinsic to the day itself, such as proms and other events, and how much a different act would change that dynamic. I'm not sure it can be changed, but I'll listen to a good argument on that.
Echo Councilman Halapaska's sentiment. I have some concerns which I voiced and raised, but I'm I'm open for an opportunity to be proven wrong in that regard.
Well, as I said, we have the same doubts, but the more we look at the way we've booked the musical talent in the past, we think there's a chance we can maybe get an increase. And of course, if that happens, that fund balance, which currently is at $186,000, would drop no more than $20,000 to $166,000. Right now, some of the bands we were looking at earlier today would be closer to $15,000. It just depends on who's available in the combination of those acts. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Hagan, did you?
As I
Yes.
said, with all due respect, I'm reluctant to see us go any further in
I understand.
financially.
I understand. Yes, sir.
Appreciate all you do, though.
Okay, sure.
I feel the same way. Maybe 1 year, but no more. And I'd like to see some more Tejano music up there.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll give you a name so that you can get some context.
Okay.
Well, I think it'll be a good experiment to see. You can maximize Friday, and it may put you in the black. You do have a surplus. If we're not going to do this, I want to know what we're going to do with the surplus. We're going to put it back in hotel fund, or we're going to redirect it, or not do something else with
It stays in the Boot Fest reserve.
Well, then maybe next year's budget, we don't have to use the 2015, 2016 revenues, or 2016, 17, and use the
Yeah, it would
surplus, right?
basically further reduce reliance on hot funds. That would be a reasonable goal. It's, we're pretty far off from
I
that.
certainly want an alternative solution if we're not going to invest a little bit and try to see if we can up this thing.
Why don't we, we'll bring it back as a budget amendment, and then, of course, we can all talk about it. We may all say no then, I don't know.
Sure.
But one of the
Understood.
things, too, I'd like as part of that is current collections of hot funds, because I believe we're up over budget, which is relevant to this decision. If we have healthy over budget hot fund collections, that helps me in my decision. So make that part of that. When would that come back, Ms. Emmett?
We'll try to get it back on the 6th because OC and them need to book talent in January.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
you would do a
that's
first
typically
reading
what we
on
do.
the 6th to see if it passes.
And Andrew's got first quarter numbers already.
Well, I don't have the first quarter. I got October's before I left, and it's unofficial, but it is, and it's not on the website yet, but it's, for October was a little over 217,000 compared to last year, which was 153,000. But it was
Wow.
actually down from the prior years. We started out slow.
Yes.
Early in the year, and then it picked up, so it's really hard. I mean, 12 was 180, and then 13 was 181, so I think it's safe to say it's up from prior years.
Okay.
But we're only 1 month in.
So it's healthy. And then sales tax, if y'all noticed, we had some very good 2 months there, so hopefully that stays that way. You never know. Okay, we do, I think that concludes our business here, and then we have an executive session.
We have one executive session, so the city council will recess for executive session on the 16th day of December at 6:37 PM. The subject matter of the executive session deliberation is as follows: Texas Government Code Section 551.072, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property interests due to the fact that the deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the city in negotiations with a third party. Thank you.
Upstairs?
Yes.